Hey everyone, it's Star from Whahabunning, and this is the first episode of Whahabunning, where we give our first impressions of a game after an hour or two of playing, just to see if it's worth giving it a go. Today we're looking at Everything is Crab, which is a roguelike style game developed by Odd Dreams Digital, with a release date somewhere in the second quarter of 2026. Since it hasn't been released quite yet, a lot of information in this video can be subject to change, so take it with a grain of salt. Everything is Crab is an interesting blend of Spore, or Evo Search for Eden, with roguelite elements, where you have to consume other creatures and plants to gain enough experience in order to upgrade or add different body parts and bodily functions. As a roguelite, it's got a gameplay loop you'd come to expect, each new run being a fully contained experience until you fail or succeed, then you start it all over again. However, unlike most roguelites, it doesn't have permanent upgrades that come from a loss, much in the vein of Spelunky or Noida. It's more about knowing what works well together and trying to find combinations that may be surprisingly effective. You start off as a little blue slime in an open grassy area with mostly passive animals and fruit and veg. To move around you use the WASD keys, and you can assign two different attacks to the left and right mouse clicks, as well as a movement ability on the spacebar. At the beginning, you only start off with a single attack, a tiny little headbutt and a little dash to help with evasion or chasing enemies fleeing from you. In order to change your abilities, you have to fill your experience bar at the bottom. And to fill that up, you have to eat, which is as easy as standing on top of the meat left behind from enemies slain or fruit and veggies that litter the ground. There is a chance that some food dropped can have a sparkling appearance, which heals you once consumed. There is also a chance that higher rarity foods that look like larger variants can drop and grant more experience. Once your bar is full, you'll level up and a screen pops up that allows you to pick between 3 different random abilities, very similarly to other roguelites. There are many different abilities that can show up with positives and sometimes negatives, such as the Antlers, which gives you an equipable attack that deals high physical damage, but also inflicts a percentage of that damage back to yourself. Or Carapace, which gives you damage reduction and an effect called Plating, which basically just functions as extra health points on top of your total health point amount, that only refreshes after every quote-unquote level up. There are also movement abilities that can replace your dash on spacebar, such as Sprint, which can replace your dinky little slime dash with a buff that increases your move speed by 40%, with a cooldown of 4 seconds at level 1. All of these abilities can be upgraded by learning the same abilities again on level up, which will improve the stats on them. There are also different rarities for every ability, which grants even more stats per upgrade rank. There's even branching evolution paths that give you arms and other appendages that unlock more different types of abilities that are related to those appendages. A thing to note, certain abilities lock other abilities, like learning the Antler prevents you from getting any of the other horn abilities. On the flip side, some abilities unlock other abilities, like the Carapace, which gives you a chance to learn an ability that allows you to hide in your shell to stun enemies, basically a shield to block with. At the bottom right of the level up screen, you can see 2 options. The top one allows you to increase the rarity of the 3 randomly selected abilities, which cost 10 of a currency called mutagen points, and the other option underneath allows you to re-roll the 3 abilities for only 1 mutagen point. A way to get these mutagen points is to take out alpha enemies that are denoted by a star above their heads, or by slaying bosses. You might also notice on the top left of the level up screen is a window that's called Affinity, with 6 different animal icons and a number next to each one of them. Each one of those animals, except for the crab, represents a style of play, like the eagle prioritizing physical damage type and aggression. Learning an ability like Jaws grants 10% eagle affinity. Okay, so what does this do, you might ask? From what I understand, the higher the number is for any of those 5 affinities listed, the more likely you are to come across abilities that fit that category. I got a feeling that the percentages shown aren't actually representative of your chances, as you can get more than 100% in a single affinity, and the total percentage of all affinities can far exceed 100% as well. And even with 180% in an affinity, the level up screen can still have abilities and upgrades from other affinities. It could be that having 100% for Eagle guarantees one of the 3 choices to be an Eagle affinity upgrade. Maybe reaching 200% guarantees 2 choices, but again, I'll have to play more to figure that out. Oh, right, the crab affinity, almost forgot. Each point of crab affinity is equal to 10% increased enemy damage and 10% increased food rarity. And in regards to the increased enemy damage, I feel like that means you do more damage to the enemies, not take more, but the wording seems a little obtuse. There are a few different enemy types in the game that will challenge your builds in different ways. Some, like this yellow lizard, do a ranged attack that stuns you and they try to maintain distance between the two of you. Or others, like this green turtle guy, are impervious to damage until they get close enough to attack you. Then there are these bumsies that just run at you, potentially in swarms.
Oh god, there's so many of them!
I felt like most runs we played, they ended up both being our prey and predator in the endgame stats, as they were the enemy most likely to do damage to you, as well as the enemy we killed the most due to their behavior. Main predator was myself. Maybe having a higher social stat would change this, but that would be something fun to test out later. There are also prey type enemies that don't have much in the way of offense, but have abilities and stats that make them harder targets to go for, like going into holes in the ground, or having very high movement speed. There's even enemies that just do their best to try and steal food from the player. Now this is the cool part about those interactions. Enemies don't just target the player, but each other as well. They can attack, eat each other, steal food from each other. Basically anything that they can do to you, they can do to each other as well. Even though that doesn't sound like much, it's enough to make it feel like a small ecosystem that you're a part of, rather than it being implied. I really do like the variation on enemy types they have on display in the playtest, and would be keen on seeing even more variety in enemies that interact with the environment, or with each other, and, not just the player. Speaking about the environment, there are a few different biomes you can traverse through, like deserts, snow, water, and the grasslands you start in, all with their own quirks and challenges to tackle. For example, the desert biome has very few plants to feed on, or at least compared to the grasslands, and without the proper resistance to heat, you will be taking damage every few seconds or so while in the desert biomes. Different biomes can also inhibit your speed as well, but there are upgrades you can acquire that help manage the terrain's effects. Throughout a run, points of interest will also spawn randomly around the world as you explore, that grant different kinds of buffs, both permanent and temporary. There are also specs that you can do that focus purely on exploration and finding these points of interest as a means of leveling up, such as the nomadic ability, which gives you 15% of your bar of experience for finding a point of interest. There is also a stat called Senses, which allows you to see points of interest and alpha enemies at greater distances. Another thing I want to try at some point. You might have noticed throughout the video that there are day and night cycles as well. While it obviously makes it harder to see long distance, I'm not sure if these cycles change what enemies are more frequent, or if there are any changes that can happen environmentally as well. One thing I do like are the changes in the music when it turns to night. It uses the same motifs present in the day music, but with more tritone substitutions, making for an eerie soundtrack that suits the vibe well. The music presented throughout the game is quite nice and bubbly, and meshes quite well with the visuals and aesthetics, as well as not drowning out sound effects that might be necessary to aid with overall gameplay clarity. Also, the transitions into boss themes are quite well done, as you get a sense of something coming through the track. The boss theme comes more energetic while still using mostly the same instrumentation, which is a nice touch for consistency. The art and the UI in this game is clean and readable, and while it's not the most amazing pixel art, it definitely does a solid enough job to convey the vibe and gameplay elements. You can tell when the enemies or you are eating. There's enough animated wind-up time prior to attacks, as well as an area notification of where the move will land. You can see red eyes at night, even in dark areas of the screen, so you are less likely to be completely blindsided. Lots of little touches that really bring it all together and make the experience more enjoyable to play. If it wasn't obvious already, I really enjoyed this game. With a variety of potential builds, and that's something I think is very important in roguelites due to their repetitious nature, the game's foundation of making your own creature that can survive what the world throws at you, and also how well it executed all of those elements. I think it's fair to say that I'm extremely excited for this game's release, and it's absolutely worth playing, even if you aren't a huge fan of roguelites. Right now, they have a free playtest available on Steam if you'd like to try it for yourself, link in the description. And hey, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are about it. And let us know if you'd like to see any more content like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.